I guess the other conversation we're going to have today is about your story, your journey, your career, your life. You're a good friend of ours, a good friend of Alsta, but we're not talking about Alsta today. We're talking about you today. So, you were recently in Jerusalem.
Yes.
Which was your last feature film,
that was my last big gig. It was came around during COVID, so it was, we don't want to talk about these times, but the world certainly kind of came to a halt. And got a call from my agent saying they want to see you for this part, and I was like, what's the part? It was like Richard the Lionheart.
Yes.
And then in the casting, they said, in the Zoom call, they said, can you ride a horse? I'm like, yeah, I can ride a horse. Of course I couldn't, but every actor knows they lie, they embellish on their CV. But I couldn't really turn that down. And then
did you have to go and get riding lessons before you turned up? No.
So we arrived in Spain, and it was basically a week with a wrangler. It was amazing. These kind of guys, and it was all I learned on on the job, on the spot. But it was really great.
Good, fantastic. Yeah. And you were compared to Ralph Fiennes for your performance in Lolita. What's that about?
Yeah, I mean, that was so. I'd had a long time out of acting. I'm mother hiatus, I'm almost maybe 12 to 13 years, like a long time. And then when I came back, one of the first jobs I did was this stage production of Lolita. And one of the reviews. I mean, I get that quite a lot. I get the Fiennes brothers. I'm hoping it's more the English Patient, Ralph Fiennes, and less the Voldemort.
My favourite movie.
Yes.
Of all time, English Patient. Yeah.
I think it's the brow, so I get a lot of Ralph Fiennes.
Right. No, I get that. Yeah, I get that. That's a great review.
Yeah, it was a great review. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And actually a really great play. On a quite a sort of delicate topic. I'm not sure whether you've read the book.
Yeah, I
or
have.
Seen the movie, and I'm not quite sure whether it would get done now. Funny enough, maybe.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. There's definitely nuance to this storyline. I think that's why I was really drawn to that part, because it's a challenge. And actually, I had a few friends of mine when I told them the storyline and the synopsis. They're like, I'm not sure I can come and see you in this, Mark. And I said, just come, just come and see the play. And one of them, I remember particularly, she was very sweet afterwards. She'd kind of had her, not mind change, but there was nuance in it. And I think for me, one of the things I'm really drawn to as an actor is things that are challenging and do afford nuance. And I think, particularly in 2024, I'm not sure that conversation is often on the table as much as maybe it should be.
Yeah, I get that. So tell me how you get started. Why acting? When?
Acting when I was very young. So I say very young. I did kind of like Saturday schools, and then went to drama school in my kind of, I would have been maybe 22, 23.
Were you modelling when you were at drama school as a side hustle, or was
no, that came actually after.
Right.
Yeah, that came in the hiatus, which I'll get to in a second. But I went to drama school. Came out convinced it was going to be whatever. We'll see you at the movies, Mark. We'll see you on TV. And then, of course, the reality of what it's like for really the vast majority of actors. And it's tough, and it's such a cliche, but you certainly need to have thick skin, So I came out of that, and then auditioned for two very big films and got down to like the last two or three. Didn't get the role. And at that point, then the modelling kind of came knocking.
Right, okay.
And it was strange. I decided to have this kind of agency over my own life rather than it kind of be. I mean, for example, I got cast previously, and then we did a chemistry test with the actress, and I was too tall for her, so they got another actor in because the balance was off. So it can be that stuff.
You couldn't get a taller actress.
Yeah, well, exactly what I said. But it can sometimes be completely out of your your hands. It's really almost like arbitrary stuff. You have to just let it all go.
Yeah. So what was your first big part? Your big breakthrough part?
Well, my first big part, I did quite a lot of theatre when I came out, and I did a Lorca play called Blood Wedding, which was, it was my sort of first time in a kind of like big theatre, and that was great. But the part I really remember most actually was, I said I had this massive hiatus. I'd gone into a career of, I was modelling, I'd become a personal trainer, I'd qualified as a psychotherapist, I did all sorts of things. But the acting bug never left me.
Yeah.
It just kind of stayed there, and I remained friends with some actors, and every time we'd go out and talk about work, I'd be there going, So I threw my hat in the ring and auditioned for the role of Lord Capulet in Romeo and Juliet, and this incredible production. It was kind of on a whim. I'm surprised they saw me. And then I got a phone call funnily enough, on the golf course. I remember exactly where I was, and I was waiting for this phone call because I knew I was down to the last few, and they said, "Mark, we'd love to
just as your opponent was putting,
yes,
your
exactly,
phone rang,
yeah. And I remember being, actually to be fair, quite emotional because it was this moment of like it being over a decade of having not been in the game, and then to get this really cool part. I'm not sure how well you know Romeo and Juliet, but Lord Capulet, it's a great part. And they actually got rid of Lady Capulet, so it was both parts together.
Right.
So it was based on, there was a kind of updated version. Both the families were like single parents. It was really very cool.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And is that the most memorable part you've had? Do you think that's the one that you would say was your best piece?
No, I mean, I think, in all honesty, probably Richard the Lionheart. There was
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. There was one moment we were on this. Must have been about 100 extras, and I'm kind of at the top of this Spanish castle, this incredible set, smoke machines going off, horses there, and when the director yells action, and you're walking down these steps. You've got all these kind of extras, and then just engage. And it felt like my Russell Crowe Gladiator moment. I had to give this like rousing speech, to these hundreds of crusaders, and it was really, I'll never ever forget that.
Brilliant. I'm fascinated by this coming back again. You have your hiatus, you come back, you're losing heart with acting, but you still come back. It's a bit like professional sport where you've got to keep picking yourself up and being really motivated.
Yeah, I think so. Also, I think having had the break, I've sort of come back and realised, I mean, being an actor, and it's not heart surgery, it's not, I mean, it can be incredibly profound, but I kind of almost took away the seriousness of it,
Okay.
And I've come back with a, again, there's this thing of, you should be interested in lots of things as an actor, I believe, anyway, so I've never been an obsessive kind of sort of tunnel hole, it's this or nothing, and then other elements of life can play their part.
Yeah. Who are your big influences? I see we're in this beautiful library room in the BFI, and there's all these books on Gielgud and Hitchcock. Any big influences that made you say, I want to do that?
I mean, I think kind of growing up, I saw lots and lots of theatre. I have seen the kind of like Anthony Shares of this world, the Ian McKellen, the Patrick Stewarts. I've seen them in lots of things. But while I love theatre, I've always been really, really drawn also to the kind of subtleties of screen acting. There's a bit of a debate whether or not, one actor, you can do both. I stand the point of view, yes, you can have some actors who can straddle both, but some of the best film stars have never, ever done theatre. And I've seen them try to do theatre, and they struggle. Likewise, I've seen some sort of stage actors try to sort of turn their hand, and it can work, but it doesn't always. But in terms of kind of modern actors, I would say someone like Philip Seymour Hoffman was sadly brilliant, and Heath Ledger. Were two actors who I've always, there's something about their kind of commitment and presence, and actually almost lack of ego. It sounds ironic because they're actors and we're actors, but I've always been really drawn to almost like selfless kind of performances, which again is something, can be a bit of an oxymoron, but there was I forget who it was now. I think it might have been James Woods potentially, or maybe Alan Rickman actually. And he said, I always look for the power of a listener and someone I'm acting with, which I think is really, really incredible. Right. So there's that sort of generosity of spirit, which I've always been really, 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 keep. That said, when you watch these incredible kind of, sort of charismatic performances, you're like, that's amazing. I've never been that actor. I probably won't be, but I'm very sort of drawn to just sort of subtlety, I guess.
Did you ever walk out on stage and forget your lines?
100%.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
It's
doing it in front of a camera, right? Cut, try again, but on stage, live audience.
It's terrifying.
What do you do?
Funnily enough, it actually happened with the first night of Lolita. It was the first play I'd done for a while. The saving grace was there was a narrator playing Nabokov who was sat in a chair at the front of the stage, and he kind of jumped in for me.
Oh, brilliant!
And it was great. Fantastic. And so we kind of improvised. I mean, they say live theatre is sometimes kind of like juggling. You're kind of throwing balls to one another, and the idea is that if the ball gets dropped, someone can pick it up, and you go, hey, and you're back. I'm very grateful to him.
Yeah. I could imagine these people sitting saying, I told you we shouldn't have come to see this.
Yeah, exactly. But I also, I mean, and often what can happen is the audience are none the wiser. obviously you've got on your lines, and they're just like, I mean, one of the things I do think, this is a slightly sort of different point, but with theatre and film as well, but certainly theatre, is that we infer so much of our own stuff into what we see.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not quite sure what objectively good acting is. I'm not even sure it exists really. You know, kind of it might work for you, it might not work for me, but you can kind of get caught up in the story.
Right. Yeah. And you're a creative household. Your wife's a singer.
Yes, my wife is an opera singer.
Wow.
Yeah. Who's actually made a move into the world of tech as well. So she's kind of straddled, but brilliant. In fact, she's sung at the Royal Festival Hall, just down the a few steps away.
Fantastic. And do you need to work it out where one of you is working and one of you isn't working?
No, not at all. No.
It works when you're both in work at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what about the? You were talking about psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about that. What that journey looked like.
So in the 10-year hiatus from acting, I kind of did a lot of things, and one of them was I was really interested in, I guess, people. You know, which in a funny way kind of lends itself kind of back to acting. But I studied for 2 years and tried to get a deeper understanding of things. It's been very helpful, and in fact, having come back to acting, it's really good because it helps me understand various aspects of who we are as kind of people. But yeah, it's it can be quite a drain as well. It's
of course.
Hard work,
Of course. And when you go and play golf, we were talking about golf earlier. Are these other people in the world of acting and entertainment, or are these from all walks of life?
They're from all walks of life.
Right.
They're from all walks of life.
So your best friends are not in the world of acting and theatre?
Well, I've got a few who are, but a very dear friend of mine, he's a pro golfer. And so I go out and I kind of learn what I can from him.
Yeah, I do the same with my son.
Yeah.
So I play a different sport. It's both called golf, but it's a different thing, isn't it?
Exactly.
So what's next?
So to be fair, I did this short film about a year ago, which had some incredible kind of like production value, and they're trying to see if they can kind of get enough finance to get people interested in a feature. It's a really, really great story, really kind of clever concept. So I'm hoping, like a lot of people, that there might be something in it.
Yeah.
It'll make a great Netflix series, that's for sure.
Fantastic, but it takes time, doesn't it, for these things to come about? So, fantastic, excellent. And what about other forms of performing art, music, cinema? What's the music you're into?
I've got a very eclectic music taste, like completely eclectic.
Go on, try me. I do too.
Okay, right. So recently, it's been a kind of a long time coming, but I've finally decided to, about 2 years ago, fell in love with vinyl. Really fell in love with vinyl, yeah. And there's some incredible charity shop bargains you can find. I love opera.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly. And you can find these beautiful box sets that have clearly never been used. Some of you probably bought them in the kind of 70s, looking to kind of come across as kind of like quite refined. But they've never been listened to. These beautiful kind of vinyls, and you can pick them up. The last one I got, La Bohème, in Oxfam for £2.
Yeah.
This beautiful box set. And I'm also a massive fan of soundtracks, needless to say. And the Japanese press editions of records are amazing.
Okay.
It's like they're super clean. They've just got this lovely weight to them. So I think I've got all my favourite movies soundtracks on vinyl. Japanese press editions.
Fantastic. No, vinyl's fabulous. I've picked up loads of vinyl in charity shops as well, in second-hand record stores, mostly jazz record. I've got an eclectic taste, everything, but including classical and jazz. But for me, the jazz records sound better on vinyl than anything else sounds on vinyl.
I completely agree. So I've got quite a few jazz records also. One of my Desert Island discs would certainly be Miles Davis' Sketches in Spain. Without question, one of my favourite things.
A Kind of Blue was probably my favourite, but that's a great album too.
And they've got I think there's a track on that called Flamenco Sketches. There's a track which maybe alludes to what's to come. But completely. And there's a brilliant film. I can't remember the French title. I have to forgive me. Called Lift to the Scaffold. It's kind of Hitchcockian French kind of noir movie. But there's this amazing soundtrack by Miles Davis that he did apparently in one take.
Right.
In this kind of like dank recording studio, and it is incredible. Yeah.
he was a genius, but like many geniuses, they were a bit eccentric.
And I did actually read his autobiography, and you know, he was a colourful guy.
Yeah,
for sure.
A friend of mine's dad saw Miles Davis live, and half the theatre walked out because he came on stage and stood with his back to the audience and played the trumpet for the whole time with his back to the audience, and people walked out.
Amazing. I saw Grace Jones once, and people weren't sure it was Grace Jones until the very end. So she came on stage with a Diamante mask on.
Brilliant.
Did the whole set.
Really?
And then only at the very end turned around, took it off, was like, it's me.
Ah, she's fantastic. Yeah. What's the best concert you ever saw?
Oh man, I've seen lots, but I have to say one of my favourite ones would have been not that long ago. I went to see the Eagles.
Oh right,
with a bunch of friends, and it was just, I kind of remember that as being just a brilliant time.
Was that a stadium gig or a smaller? Wembley, right. Okay. Yeah. Like you, I've seen a lot of the big acts. I saw Queen when I was a kid.
Okay.
With Freddie Mercury, saw Bowie.
Oh man.
And ones like that. But some of the best ones were the small gigs. You know, 200 people in an intimate, an intimate setting.
Yeah. Actually, my son got really into Queen and Freddie Mercury quite young. So when he was 10 years old, he had above his bed a Freddie Mercury poster and a Back to the Future poster. And I thought, my work is done at that point. I was like, I'm good. I think my father is complete.
And what's he doing? Your son, is he going to follow in your footsteps?
I think so, but maybe behind the camera. In fact, certainly behind the camera. He's 13, but he's incredibly creative. In fact, recently we were walking to school, and he was like, Dad, what's your comfort movie? And I've got a few, you know, I've got a few. And I said, well, what's yours? And he said, The Grand Budapest Hotel. And I'm not sure how many 13-year-olds would come up with that, but for me, I'm like, okay, fine. That's a
Ray Fiennes thing again. You see,
yeah. So we can look back on that, but I mean, he's incredibly creative himself. Great artist. You know, his artwork's actually hanging up, you know, in our house.
Oh, brilliant!
School, you know.
Oh, fantastic.
And, he wants to be a filmmaker.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And talking about photography, you're a bit of a photographer yourself.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do dabble. I think again back to the kind of other things that actors have to do. I got really into doing some like photography, like some headshots, portraiture, and then it's kind of moved a little bit more into kind of in more informal things. But I do. Yeah, I got a very nice camera.
Good.
A nice little Fuji number.
Now, as you're into photography and you're also an actor, have you ever had a notion to try going behind the camera in features or whatever?
I tell you what. So when there was a stage when I was doing some like drop-in acting classes, and one day the teacher just, for whatever reason, didn't show up, and I was the kind of senior actor in the class, and I led the class, and there was someone who hadn't been in there before, and then he'd called up the studio the next day to say, when's Mark's next class? So I was very complimented. It was a great compliment because I was just kind of jumping into this guy.
Fantastic.
But at that point, it did make me think, well, maybe at some point there might be something there, you know, potentially. I think as a kind of filmmaker, you've got to have this kind of overall picture of things. I'm not quite sure I've got that. I mean, whenever I'm filming, I always become good buddies with the DOP because they're the guys who can frame you well. So I think I've got a real interest in that. But let's see.
Yeah, because some actors just want to stay actors, don't they? And others have got interest in that whole process.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I have realised over the years, and every actor's different. Some actors stay completely in their trailer, others just keep headphones on and don't get engaged. You'll see great work from that. I'm more of the mind that you're kind of not a cog in a wheel, but you're just part of the process. You know, you can have an incredible performance, but if the sound's not on, that doesn't really matter, you know. So it's about this whole kind of team thing, which I really, really like. So whenever I get involved with actors, I'm very kind of engaged with everybody on the set. For me, that helps. You know, that's my process, that I kind of want to just, kind of engage with everything and everyone until it's time to go to work, and then kind of zone in.
Okay. And where's the most exotic or the most interesting place, just looking at this sitting next to us, that you've had to go and film?
Oh, I'd have to go. I haven't actually filmed anywhere terribly exciting.
Where was Jerusalem filmed?
Jerusalem was filmed in Spain.
Spain.
So Spain.
So we're here.
Yes, exactly, just there. But that actually doubled up for, of course, Jerusalem. And it's where they shot a lot of the spaghetti westerns. So there's these amazing kind of like arid, kind of like deserts, effectively. Super cool, super cool. I think they filmed some of the Game of Thrones things there. And it's just got that, definitely got that. But you know what they filmed there? They filmed some of the Indiana Jones movies there.
Oh,
as
really?
Well. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of it can definitely double up. So it was in Spain, but it felt like I was in the middle of the desert.
Yeah,
for sure,
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Where do you like to travel when you go on holidays?
So, funny enough, actually, my favourite part of the world is Spain.
Okay.
Yeah, I went on a school exchange when I was 13. I'm still buddies with the guy.
Oh,
great. We're like pen pals. We'll get
brilliant.
A message on birthdays and Christmases and stuff. And I've always had a real love for Spain. I speak fluent Spanish. I kind of kept it up since school. The Caribbean and Spain, I kind of would say,
Love the Caribbean.
Yeah.
It's an escape place, isn't it?
It is an escape place.
Where lots of people think the islands are all the same.
Oh, they're so completely different. So, funnily enough, actually, I've got a very good friend of mine who's an anthropologist, and if you go to Barbados, you can hear this. It's almost like this Bristolian fleck. You it's so unlike the generic West Indian accent. Anyway, it turns out that some of the first settlers in Barbados were actually from Bristol, right? Yeah. So that kind of piratey chat kind of is a thing,
That's
which I love. And actually, in Trinidad, some of the first settlers were Welsh, and if you listen to the Trinidadian accent, you can actually hear it sounds slightly Welsh. It's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they still have things like pipe bands,
exactly.
Really British.
Yeah.
Scottish.
Exactly.
Fantastic. You mentioned Japan a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Have you been?
I've not been.
Right.
I've not been to Japan, and it is the bucket list destination of Zach, my boy. So we're kind of, I want to kind of plan a trip there when he's a bit older, and we can go. I mean, he loves anime. He's really into the Studio Ghibli films. I'm not sure whether you know those Studio Ghibli, these incredible animations that are all hand drawn.
Right.
I mean, they're literally every frame is a work of art.
Fantastic.
And so he would love to do that.
Right. Okay. I've been to Japan.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the family there.
Oh man, amazing.
To take them, but I used to go regularly working. But anyway, it's been fantastic.
Thank you, Angus.
Catching up and finding a bit more about your journey. Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
your time
Thank you for your
today,
time.
and great to see you.
You too. Thank you. All right, man.